Hi, I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach parenting, good communication, and family relationships all over the world. I used to be a liar, and in this video, I'm going to talk about how to discipline your teenager for lying. It's true, I used to be a liar. In fact, there were many years I spent lying. Lying to my parents, lying to my teachers, lying to my friends. I will forever be grateful to my friend Tara Lee, who encouraged me not to lie anymore by correcting me at a time when I needed it most. It changed everything for me. I knew I had a problem with lying and I had not been able to fix it. And the thing is, I had not been corrected very often for it. Now, fast forward ahead many years, and all of a sudden I'm a parent. And I have 4 children of my own who all have experimented with lying at least once or twice. But I brought in troubled teens into my home too as a treatment foster parent. And all of those, just about all of them, had a problem with lying. In fact, I on purpose looked at the files and found the ones that said lying issues or honesty issues or something like that. I knew those were the teens that people did not want to help because lying is a hard behavior to handle. I recognize that. But because I actually had recovered from lying myself, I thought, these are the ones. I know what it looks like to lie. I can help them so that they don't feel like they need to lie anymore. I will give them the skills that they need. And that's what I want to talk to you about here. So first we're going to talk a little bit about lying and why they lie, and then we're going to talk about what you can do about it. So let's talk about why teenagers lie. So when they're little, they lie because they try to experiment with control. You know, this is like around age 7 or 8, and they start telling their first lies. And then oftentimes they'll kind of discontinue that behavior for a while. Then they hit the teenage years, and guess what happens? Sometimes this old behavior, lying, rears its ugly head again. And actually the reason is pretty similar. They actually want more control over their lives. So when children hit the teenage years, they actually are wanting to be more autonomous. They want to have more of a say in what's happening. They want freedom and control. And sometimes they feel like the parent involvement is getting a little bit too oppressive. So they want to take a step back and see if they can run the show themselves, if they can make sure that they get developmentally what they require. And they do actually feel like they have certain needs at this stage that they have to provide for themselves. So this is a good thing that they start wanting to be more autonomous. We want them to launch from our homes at a certain point, right? We don't want to be in control of them until they're, 19, 20, 21. We want them to go, you know what? I want to start going to college. I want to get an apartment of my own. I want to start doing things with my life, right? So that means we do need to give them the opportunity to control a certain amount of things that are happening in their lives. Now, we have to make sure that all of this happens in a way that does not undermine our role and authority as their parent. Because their prefrontal cortexes, the parts that do all the problem solving for the brain, are not fully developed until a person is between the ages of 18 and 25 years old, and really honestly trending more toward the mid-20s. So what that means is that even when they launch, they'll need our help a little bit. We need to keep that door open and make sure that we're there to provide help and direction for them as they're getting ready to launch, but we also need to give them enough freedom and control that they can stretch some of their legs and see if they can test out adulthood just a little bit before they launch into it. They've got to have practice, right? Not only do they want freedom and control, but oftentimes they want to avoid conflict. That's right. Many people lie for survival. They lie about the assignment that they should have done, but they didn't do because they're like, maybe I could hurry and get it done, and then I don't have to deal with them telling me how bad I am at doing my homework. They just don't want the drama. So I want you to consider something here right at the beginning of this. Do you give your children drama? Are you consistently, or maybe even just periodically, being dramatic, being emotional about things with your children. When they forget to do something because, well, they're hormonal, and in case you didn't know, when people go through puberty and hormonal changes, they get a little dingy, okay? Are you understanding of that and help them course correct in a way that's loving and caring, but also consistent? Or do you get emotional about it and get bothered that by this time, by 14, they should know how to get things done around here? Do you talk like that? Or are you calm and understanding? Because if you get emotional, then it could be that your child sees themselves as trying to avoid conflict by telling a lie. They might think they're actually doing you a service by not knowing about it, and they'll try to now fix it undercover, right? So that you don't ever have to know they failed. Another thing that has happened in recent society is parents actually have put a lot of pressure on their children to be perfect, okay? So they have given their children these wonderful lives full of all kinds of opportunities and money and, increased understanding of key issues and information. And so they assume that the child is going to turn out to be amazing. They have all this pressure and their whole hopes and their identity as parents sometimes riding on this child. And the child feels the weight of that. And the last thing they want to do is disappoint their parents or the other people around them. So they feel like sometimes, even though maybe the parents didn't try to do this to the child, they feel like they have to hold up this image of being perfect and never disappointing anyone and making everyone happy. That leads to more lying. If you have a single child, an only child, this is even more likely to be the case. So if you're dealing with lying, it could be a good idea for you to examine yourself and the way the relationship has been running, some of the messages that might be coming through to the child, and see if some of those things could be adjusted so that your child does not feel a need to lie to you any longer. And just so you know, you might have to come clean about the fact that you didn't know you were coming across that way with the child, and tell them that you're going to make some changes in the way the communication happens. And if you need help with that, I've got a lot of other videos that you can watch for that. So I want to share with you some key things that you can do to help your child choose to stop lying. That's right, choose. But before we do that, click that subscribe button. There are so many videos on this channel that relate to you and your child. They are going to help you have a better connection, better open communication, and increase understanding between the two of you. Click on the subscribe button now, and don't forget that notification bell too. So let's talk about how to fix this pesky lying problem. It is possible. Obviously, the person does have to choose to stop lying, which means you can't force it or make it happen. But you can create an environment where they want to stop lying. And one of the key things that you can do to create this environment is to create a good attachment or relationship with your child. All good teaching starts with a good relationship. They will listen to you if they have a good bond to you, even if sometimes the truth is hard to hear. So creating a good relationship is number one. Now, maybe you don't know how to create a good relationship with your child. Maybe that's the biggest problem that you're facing. Maybe they're lying to you, and that's damaging your relationship more and more. Well, sometimes you just have to bring things into the light, You've got to open up the communication, have a talk with them about who you are in each other's lives. What are your roles, that you have? And what are you supposed to be accomplishing as a family, as a team? How can you help them? What skills do they need? Where are you headed as a group? All of these kinds of things are things that you should be talking about with your child. And you know what? Talk about the lying. Talk about how everybody experiments with it, but the truths that you know about it, how it hurts relationships, how it's not going to really help them get what they want for the long term, but how really this lying behavior that they're falling into will become something that takes over them. It will become a habit or an addiction. I know, because that's what it became for me, and it was very hard to stop. That you don't want them to have a habit or an addiction that they have to handle later in life when it's been more deeply ingrained. And so you're going to work on it right now. You're not going to take it personally, but you're definitely going to address it every time. So how do you address it? Well, you address it with skill development. You don't have to talk about the little truths and the little falsehoods and all the little details of everything they're saying all the time. This is something that people make a mistake about. But I knew as a foster parent that was the last road I wanted to go down to. This little bit of this wasn't right. This little bit of this might have been right. And trying to find who done it, who said what that was exactly true all the time. Then you just end up in a litigation journey with every single communication that happens to you. And that is too much work. What you do instead is you teach them key skills. So I'm going to share with you 2 skills that you can teach your child that will hopefully help conquer this lying habit. Now, with these 2 skills, you also need to make sure that you correct them consistently for any lies that happen and that you praise them for any of their honest communication. So keep that in mind and let them know as part of this pre-teach, this conversation that you're having at the beginning of this interaction, that you actually will be doing praises and corrections to help them learn cause and effect, and so that they get the opportunity of being caught every time they lie, or at least almost every time they lie, so that they don't think it's working. They don't think people don't know, because most people do know, they just don't say that they know. Or they know something wasn't quite right and they immediately feel distant from the person. As a good parent, we should teach our child that. Okay, let's talk about these 2 skills. The first skill, and this is one of the 4 basic skills that I teach for parents so that they can teach these to their children to increase self-government, is accepting no answers and criticism. So did you know that lying is basically a person not accepting a no answer? A no answer covers boundaries, okay? So let's say there's a line, and this line is the line that crosses over honesty. On this side is honesty. On this side is the lie. So we don't want to cross over that line. This is our boundary. That means that this line, this boundary, is a no answer. Okay? So this is why we're using the skill, one of those 4 basic skills, accepting a no answer. There are 4 steps to accepting a no answer. They are to look at the person or situation. So this situation might be that boundary line. Number 2, to keep a calm face, voice, and body. Number 3, to say okay to the boundary line, meaning I'm not going to cross over you, okay? Or disagree appropriately about it if you feel like the boundary line isn't quite right, okay? Then drop the subject. So if you know there is a line I don't cross, I'm not going to tell that lie. I know that this is a lie and I'm not doing it, then I'm going to drop the subject. I might even have to walk away from the situation just so that I don't talk anymore, so that I don't tell a lie. This is how a person accepts a no answer in the circumstance of not crossing over that boundary line, leading to lying. I hope you can see how this skill could also be very useful for a lot of other circumstances as well. So that's one skill you want to teach your child. And then when they lie, all that you do is you say, okay, just now I noticed that you said this, which was actually not accurate. That was a false statement, or that was a lie. And so I know that we crossed over that boundary line, which means we're not accepting no answers. So now you can just talk about not accepting no answers, and you don't have to go into all the intricacies of the lie. You can just basically say that boundary line is a no answer. You didn't drop the subject because you went over it anyway, even though you knew that that wasn't going to be true, right? Now, with children that lie, sometimes they will fight you tooth and nail. No, I did not. And it is kind of true. And this, or no, it is true. You don't know. You said, and they'll say all these different things because they're trying to back up their lie with more lies. They don't want to have to deal with it. So one of the best things you can do as a parent is just say, right now, the thing that you said was a lie. And by the way, that pre-teaching that you did way before, you say, sometimes even if it wasn't a lie, if I think it was, or it feels like it was, we're going to correct it like it was. That's what happens until people know that you have a habit of telling the truth. They have to correct something that might even seem just a little off, even if it is mostly true, or sometimes occasionally could be true. But you have to accept it and move on, because we have to correct it every single time. And a liar does not always own up to when their lie happened. So I have to help you. Right? So anyway, you just declare that wasn't true and you're not accepting a no answer, and then you do a full correction. Now, I don't have time here to go into a full correction because I have another skill that I want to share with you, which I think will be really empowering to your teenager who's lying. Remember how I said that I used to be a liar? Well, after my friend confronted me about it, which I'm so grateful that she did, I made a skill set for myself for how to control the impulse to lie. I had to do something. I needed something to hold on to so that I would not lie anymore. Now, this might be a skill set that you could teach to your teenager so that they could make better decisions and communicate in more effective ways. Here's the skill set. I recognized I wanted to say something. So there is a little craving that happens right before a person says something, but especially right before they're going to tell a lie. For me, it was a little feeling in the pit of my stomach that felt like I want to say something right now to either seek attention or to get out of trouble or to avoid conflict. So I recognized that's step number one. Then I stopped myself. That's step number two. Wait, stop talking, I would say. Then I questioned myself. Is this the truth? And if the answer is yes, that it is the truth, then I would say the truth exactly as it is. But if the answer was no, so here's my action step, my plan. Okay, that's step number 4, have a plan for what to do if it's true or not, right? Then I would have a plan. And my plan was that I would actually step back, I would turn, I would walk away because I was not going to stay there. If I stayed there too long, that craving would take over and I would say it anyway, so I had to get away from the situation. Then I would go and report to myself. I had a journal where I kept track of how I was doing on this goal, and I was honest in that journal. And that kept me honest with all the people that I was talking with. Now, can a person cure lying like this with one correction, one time of catching yourself almost going to lie and stopping it? No, it's not going to be that fast. If a person's been lying for a while, it's going to take a while to stop. So be patient, help them through it, correct them, help them use empowering skills that are going to make a difference in their life. There are a lot of other skills that you're probably going to need in order to make sure that you are a calm parent handling this situation. And make sure that you have a proper bond, even though you have this difficult behavior that you're working with. So I would like to refer you to my next video, which will go through all of the skills and principles that you are going to want to focus on to become a self-governed, calm parent. That video is called The Not So Known Secret to Parenting Success. Click on the link to that video now. I'll see you there.